Everybody's a suspect!
Coming to get you, Bobber.
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be ranking the timelines of the Halloween movies. Now I've windowed it down to 7 timelines. Now you maybe have less timelines than that, or you maybe have more timelines than that. But for me, this is the 7 timelines that I notice or I look at as being credible in the Halloween franchise. Now I'm not going to be including Season of the Witch because it is only one movie, so it doesn't really matter about that. So that's a one-off film, a one-off anthology movie that I'm not going to be including in the timeline. I feel like it would be silly to do that, and also it doesn't feature Michael Myers. So the 7 timelines that I'll be including here is more than one movie, and it does feature Michael Myers. And at number 7 and in last place is what I call the Curse of the Thorn timeline. This is unfortunately Halloween from 1978, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, Halloween 5 and Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers. Obviously Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 are great films, and so is Halloween 4, but the timeline itself, because those movies start what we end with Halloween the Curse of Michael Myers, is the reason it's in last place. It's just something about that curse story arc that I just couldn't get behind. You know, I always wanted the grounded Halloween movies with Michael Myers, obviously grounded to a certain aspect, but when you start including reasons as to why Michael Myers is killing someone and showing it on screen like they did in The Curse of Michael Myers, especially with that producer's cut, it's just an abomination. It's an abomination of a storyline. So there's no redeeming factor about this storyline. Remember, I'm not ranking movies, guys. I know that Halloween is included in the storyline, but the storyline itself and what it led to is the reason this is in dead last place. And at number 6 is the Sister Quadrilogy, and what that includes is Halloween 1978, Halloween 2, where it introduced the sister, Halloween H2O, and then Halloween Resurrection. Now obviously the reason that this is so low down is for what they've done in Halloween Resurrection. Not only did they bring back Michael Myers in the most ridiculous fashion, but they killed off Laurie Strode in the most ridiculous fashion. You know, obviously they were brother and sister to the end, and I know that Michael did kill her, but she also killed herself as well by pushing herself off the balcony, obviously with the wound as well. So that build-up of 4 movies of this Sister Quadrilogy led to that, and then after that you've got some ridiculous storyline with the webcam and the web series people with Dangertainment. So it didn't help the sister storyline. You know, you're introducing the sister aspect later on in the series in Halloween 2, and she didn't really find out on screen that she was the sister of Michael Myers. So I think that was maybe the most disappointing aspect leading up to Halloween Resurrection. If it finished at Halloween H2O, then we'll talk about that later, but with the fact that they included Halloween Resurrection to continue the story, or at least to conclude the story of the sister aspect, it was just terrible. That conclusion was the reason this is so low down on the list. And at number 5 is the Rob Zombie story, and it's simply Halloween 1 and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Now the story itself is okay if you want to look at it as not being a Michael Myers story or a Halloween story. Maybe even a Halloween story would be fine, but not Michael Myers. But I think they explained Michael's backstory too much. They included him too much as a child, his childhood trauma that led to what he'd done. And obviously with Halloween 2 veering off into that kind of dreamlike state that Michael Myers got himself in with his dead mother and the white horse and the young Michael Myers that followed him around telling him to kill people. Yes, they explained that, and that's what they wanted to do in this storyline. That's what Rob Zombie wanted to explain. And again, it's fine if it's not part of the Michael Myers story, but because it is Halloween and because it is supposed to be Michael Myers with the original characters, with Dr. Loomis and Laurie Strode, etc., it just didn't work for me. It was too much. I know that sometimes you want to get a little bit more information, but you don't want to be spoon-fed that information to the point where you can't leave anything to the imagination. Everything is fed to you on screen, and you're like, that's too much. It's way too much for a Michael Myers storyline. Therefore, it wasn't the worst, but it's nowhere near the best. And at number 4 is the Daughter Trilogy, as I like to see it. Now this is Halloween, Halloween 2, and then Halloween 4. You will notice that I didn't include Halloween 5 in this, and that's for good reason, because you've got Halloween 1 with Laurie Strode, Halloween 2 is where she survives finally the night of terror, and then it goes to 10 years later, which is a perfect time, and you see Laurie's daughter Jamie, who's adopted because Laurie Strode died, and then it comes full circle with the evil with Jamie Lloyd at the top of those stairs, and she's basically become what Michael Myers did back in 1963. I think that as a trilogy is a perfect end, a perfect start and a perfect end to what would be a really good trilogy, with Laurie Strode surviving, dying, having her daughter come back and being evil at the end of the movie. I think that just comes full circle perfectly. Obviously we got Halloween 5, but if you want to look at this little trilogy in its own little timeline, I think that's a perfect trilogy. Obviously Jamie as a character was even better because she was a connection to me because I was about her age when I first saw the movie, and all the characters in Halloween 4 were really good as well, and it had a really good vibe, a really good feeling to it. So if that was the very end to that mini trilogy, it's perfect. And at number 3 is the original duo, Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. Now you'll notice that I'm ignoring certain movies and the whole timeline, the whole franchise, and that's for a good reason, because I'm trying to give you my mini timelines, and this is a good example of the original duo, because at the end of Halloween 2, Michael Myers did die. That was the very end until they wanted to make more money and bring Michael Myers back. So you look at it as just this one night, this 2-movie extravaganza, and it was 3 years apart the way they filmed it, and it did seem seamless. Now Halloween 2 is obviously nowhere near as good as the original, but it still felt like it was on the same night. It still felt like it was filmed round about the same time as well, and that's something you have to give them props for. Rick Rosenthal, the director, and everyone else behind the movie. It felt like a seamless night. If there was no other movie after Halloween 1 and 2, I think this would be the perfect duo. So therefore, it's very high up on the list. And at number 2 is what I would call either the Halloween Quadrilogy or the David Gordon Green sequel trilogy, and that is Halloween 1978, and then David Gordon Green's Halloween, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends. Now think what you like about David Gordon Green's entries into the franchise, but what David Gordon Green gives us is something different every time. Now again, I'm not ranking the movies. I know that some of the movies are not as good as the movies that are below this in the timelines, but when you look at them as a timeline itself, it's a very strong, tight-knit timeline. There's not much you can say bad about the timeline with David Gordon Green because it gets it spot on. You know, he brings Tommy back, he brings Lindsay back, you've got Lonnie that comes back, you've got Nurse Marion, you've even got characters that they mention later on in the movies like they did in Halloween 1978, like Ben Tramer, and obviously Devon and Halloween Ends. So there's just so many tight-knit things that are connected so well and interwoven so well into the original movie. And obviously you've got that flashback scene in Halloween Kills as well. So looking at the 4 movies, good or bad, looking at the 4 movies in this one specific timeline, it was perfect. It was fantastic. So yes, the movies have got their problems, but the timeline itself, top notch. And then at number 1 for me is the Sister Trilogy, the trilogy that I always see as the best trilogy, and that is Halloween 1 from 1978, Halloween 2 from 1981, and Halloween H2O, the finale to this Sister Trilogy. We obviously ignore Halloween Resurrection, that was further up on the list, but this trilogy is the perfect trilogy for me. If somebody says, show me a Halloween movie timeline that shows and showcases Laurie Strode as the perfect sister and Michael Myers as the perfect brother, this is it. You know, you've got Halloween 1 where we don't know the brother and sister, then we've got Halloween 2 where they drop the bomb, the brother and sister, and then you've got a 20-year gap. What happened? Let's find out. And Michael Myers finally finds his sister, and that showdown at the very end of Halloween H2O was amazing. It was perfect. It was the best finale to what I would see as the Sister Trilogy. And then with her chopping his head off at the very end, you can't top that. I know that they tried to top it in Halloween Ends. You just can't do it. There's no way you can top the end of this timeline because it is the sister aspect. It is the Sister Trilogy. It is a sister waiting for her brother, coming to get her after 20 years and finally meeting up after 20 years. There's no other, you know, I get people asking me all the time, how could you improve on the end of Halloween H2O? You can't. The best ending to a Halloween movie, to a Halloween timeline, is what we get for Halloween H2O. So that is my rankings for the Halloween timeline. Obviously the timelines are shorter than that. There's less timelines than what I've given you there. That's just the way I see the timelines and how I improve upon some of the timelines in the franchise. Now there may be other ways you can do it that I haven't mentioned. So what I want you to do, guys, is let me know your timeline ranking down below. It doesn't have to be as extravagant as what I've given you there. Just give me your timeline down below, maybe your top 3 timelines or whatever. Let me know why as well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.